Beautiful. Thank you so much. There's a story that goes along with that song, and it was actually written by Shelby's aunt, Val. And she's being installed as the minister at Unity of Richmond today. She's, in addition to being a fellow Unity minister, I was also her mentor when she was going through seminary, and just so happens that she is my son-in-law's sister. Do you think there are many coincidences in this life? Amazing, huh? Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
She's playing one of our songs on video at that service today.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Oh, is she cool?
Yeah.
I could not be there. She had asked if I could come, and I couldn't, but I did record a 3-minute segment just to say congratulations. So we're there and she's here, so that's great. That's great. It's one of the synchronicities I was going to talk about today, as a matter of fact. We're all seekers on the path, are we not? The journey, a seeker's guide. I'm going to speak to you about that and give you some things to think about this week, if you would. We're all seekers on the path. And where we are on the path, it doesn't matter. Most of us, as we know, will not attain full awareness or enlightenment in this lifetime. There have been perhaps a few that have walked this earth that attained that embodiment. But as Dr. Phil might say, that's not me. But you know what? I'm not going to let that stop me. I am going to become the best I can be while I am here on this earth. I'm sure going to do that. What does it mean to start this seeker's journey? It starts with a yearning, a longing. It's hard to describe unless you felt it yourself. You get to that place, you're like, something in my life needs to change. I'm not certain what it is. I know for most of us that were born earlier than the recent few decades, but we found ourselves at midlife thinking, what in the world? I've raised my kids, I've done this, I've done that, I've had a career. There's got to be more. There's got to be more. And we don't actually feel troubled, but there is a yearning for something else, something beyond, something more. So we're going to start this series today. And I'm going to want to just talk about the fact that we are each here for a reason. There are no accidents. If you have believed that in your lifetime, I'd like to convince you otherwise, okay? Where we are on the journey, it doesn't really matter. We may have, if you believe in reincarnation, you might believe, and if you don't, that's okay too, doesn't matter. You might have been placed in this life in a very coarse vehicle. You may even be a very rough personality. You may have more challenges to come through than other people. You may feel like, well, you know what? That person was gentle when they were born. Why wasn't I? Well, it doesn't matter. You weren't. That's not the way it is, and you are where you are. And there's no judgment in it. You're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose, and it's not always just you. We tend to think in terms of it's all got to be me, but sometimes we may be the reason someone else chooses something different. We just may be. So anyway, look at my own family if we want to talk about synchronicities. We take it for granted that my husband is my husband, and he's done so many things here that I wouldn't have been able to achieve on my own. I couldn't have done it had he not been my partner. You see, Dan has a background in just about everything. His dad was an engineer, sent himself through Purdue University, was an engineer on large bridges across the country, suspension bridges. He was even an engineer on the Golden Gate, the George Washington Bridge. So that's the family that my husband was born into. His mother came from a farm there in Indiana, and by early 40s, his dad had retired and became a farmer. But their expectations of their kids were huge. His dad wouldn't let up. They needed to learn everything they could and never say, I can't do something. That's what they were taught. Well, had it not been for Dan, early on, when this other building was purchased, we just didn't have, none of the rest of us had the know-how to rebuild it. And then the time came when we grew out of that one. None of us had the know-how to design a building and to actually make it happen. He made it happen in 6 months' time. Incredible. Couldn't have done it without him. So I'm just using this as an example of someone who had the background in not only engineering, but he also had a degree in, he says it was the dinosaurs with computer science at that time, but he did. It gave him enough information when we needed to go online during the pandemic. It was easy to do. So I'm just saying this. Don't take things for granted. It's easy to do that. It's easy to say, oh, well, this just happened. No, it doesn't happen without the people and without these synchronicities. Excuse me. I talk too much, I get dry. We just happened to show up here with Katrina. You think we just happened to show up here? Isn't that odd? Then in 2005, we sold our place in Tennessee that was absolutely gorgeous, 18 acres on the main channel of the Tennessee River. Beautiful. Couldn't have wanted anything more. But there was a yearning in my heart, and I knew we needed to come here. So we came. Katrina happened. Thank God we hadn't bought a house, but we'd looked at several, and we had chosen one. And Katrina happened, and we were blessed with not having to rebuild a home. Well, no, that's not true. We did find something where we were able to live upstairs. And after Katrina happened, our house up there had sold at full value. And I said to my husband, what are we going to do? He said, we're going anyway. And he had the courage to do it. And I knew I had a mission here, and I knew it. Our children, our oldest daughter, Sherry, the violinist, and her husband, who's also a musician, turns out, band director with several local high schools. He's served here. And they lived in Houston, had great jobs. And we'd been here about a year. They decided to move over here with their 2 children, Shelby and Andy. Okay, another synchronicity. We wouldn't have this music had it not been for them. That song, Rest in Me, Shelby started singing it first with her aunt when she came to visit, 2013? 12. And then Charles joined us. They started singing it together. And at some point, Sherry quit teaching in the school system over there in Bay St. Louis and joined us here too. These are not accidents, folks. These are synchronicities. We're here together, and they're not an accident. I'm just giving you these things as examples of things we take for granted every single day in our lives. Every single day. Oh, well, we just take that for granted, don't we? And every single one of you that were here the morning that Charles collapsed, May 24th, 2023, thank you. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for everything you did. Another miracle sitting there. He's alive and well. Survived, flew him to Birmingham, medical center. Miracle, open heart, chest surgery. He's alive and well back here. There are no accidents. We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. And we don't take that lightly. My husband and I, we've been here all these years and just so glad to serve and so glad to be here. And we intend to continue serving until, I don't know, somebody bumps me out of the pulpit or shows up and demonstrates that they're the next minister here, and that's okay too. There is no competition. We're here to serve, and we're here to serve God and the higher good. And that's the only reason we're here. That's why we're here. My husband and I have always done things in big ways because that's the only way he knows to do things. We've always lived in large houses. Even this last house we bought to rebuild and live in, it turned out to be too big for us, and I don't know how we do that. He said it's because of his big ego and my big aura. And so I guess, that's how but we always do. I guess we just need a lot of space, but for the two of us to cohabitate, it's okay. It's okay. We're so thankful for each and every one of you that's here today, and going to start this journey with us, whether you're able to come every Sunday or whatever Sunday you can. We appreciate you being here. Now, I want to tell you, there are no accidents. Last Sunday, I announced we were going to start this journey together, and it's going to be a series, and it's going to be 15 months. And it just so happened that the time began on October 1st and was going to end December 31st next year, 2024. And I noticed that Beth, who's over there getting the food ready, looked at me with an interesting look on her face and said, "How in the world did you choose that period of time?" She thought maybe I was into Vedic astrology or something, which I'm not. I said, "I don't know. I woke up and already had my talk for that day, but I woke up and it was a message I received that I was going to be doing a program for 15 months. She said, "Did you know how special that period of time is?" According to Vedic astrology, the forecast is Sikh, Akara Sikh numerology, that period of time, October 1st through the end of next year, is a very, very huge period of time. And the forecast is that we are going to be working through a whole lot of things so that when 2025 arrives, which happens to be a 9, if you're into numerology, it's a time of heavy clearing and we'll be ready. I thought, well, isn't that interesting? I certainly didn't know that when I said I was planning this series. But that's what Beth told me. If you've got any further questions, you can ask her. So this morning, let's talk a little bit about roadmaps of life. And I occasionally will read what Philip Gulley has to say. He's a Quaker minister or pastor, they call them. I don't believe Quakers call it ministers, but he's a pastor of a pastorate. And he's a very contemporary guy. He talks in common everyday language. He doesn't try to throw any big words in there and confuse you. He's just a wonderful, down-to-earth man that is still in the pulpit, but he also speaks a lot around the country, and he also has a blog where he talks or gives you the text of what he's going to talk about in his service. He said that he and a friend rode motorcycles one week up to Quaker Haven. They're in Indiana. He said it had been a dozen years since he'd been there, and his battery on his iPhone was down to nothing. So he had to reckon the last 10 miles or so. Fortunately for him, he'd watched the Daniel Boone show growing up, so he knew that moss grew on the north side of telephone poles. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I know it now. I bet my husband could tell you that, though. So he found his bearings that way, and eventually it took them to Quaker Haven. Next day, they headed over into Ohio. They passed by some Amish homesteads and pastures, spring colts, and crowds of children. He said it was so picturesque. He wished he were Amish until he remembered that they couldn't have motorcycles. He said that brought back a memory when he was younger and he knew a young Amish man that would beg him to come over and pick him up and take him for a ride on his motorcycle. And he'd whisper to him, you have to come after dark because I can't be seen on that motorcycle. They might disown me. Oh my goodness, the silly ways we pretend in this lifetime that to go along with things. It'll have to be dark so the bishop won't see me. Some folks have bishops, some have Bibles, others of us just try to find our way by the moss on telephone poles. It's all okay. It all works. It's all God. You know that, don't you? He goes further. Do you remember when you were a kid and the gas stations gave out free road maps? He said I would take them home and I'd pore over them, spending hours at our dining room table studying our state, tracing the rivers, the roads with my finger, reading the strange names of towns, cities, and counties like Pumpkin Center and Kokomo. On Sunday mornings, I would go to St. Mary's Queen of Peace Catholic Church and be taught that the chief purpose of religion was to satisfy our innate need to worship someone or something else outside of ourselves. And he goes on to say that just didn't feel right to me. I knew that just wasn't right for me. That might be the path for them, but he goes on to say he didn't want to study a religion. He wanted to find God on his own. So he says he's all in favor of awe and amazement, walking through the world with a sense of wonderment and gratitude. But our deepest need is to know how to read a map, how to find our way, how to navigate the maze of our lives wisely, charitably, and joyfully. He says our deepest need is to know how to live and to know our next right step. He said he overheard a counselor at a camp telling a young camper that everything we needed to know was in the Bible. He said he so wanted to intervene and say it wasn't so. But he says, I wasn't asked to be a counselor, so I got up and went out and got a Coke to satisfy myself and let it be. It wasn't my place, nor was it my time, he said. So sometimes it's not our place, nor is it our time to intervene, is it? But then back to maps. He said maybe 15 years ago, a friend had told him about how he was being interviewed to be a Quaker pastor in Indiana at an annual yearly meeting that they have. And the committee asked him if Jesus was the only way to God. What the man did, he drew a map of Indiana showing the road from Richmond to Indianapolis. Here's how I get from Richmond to Indianapolis, he told them, drawing an image of Interstate 70. But if I lived in Lafayette, I'd get to Indianapolis this way. Then he drew a picture of I-65. They didn't like his inference. The committee didn't, because what he was saying is it depends on who you are, where you are in the world, and how you grew up, and what your path is as to how you should find God. And don't let anybody else tell you how or where. That's yours to decide. Yours alone. One of the reasons we don't have a whole lot of doctrine or dogma here is because we recognize that. When I had gone through that great turning in my own life and needed something different, something more, I studied every kind of theology you could think of when I was 45. Everything you could think of. I went to Catholics, pastoral theology, Methodist. You name it, I studied it. I wanted to know more. And what I wanted to know more was, I don't want to just find a particular path or religion or doctrine or dogma that says you must do this in order to find God. I just wanted to find my own way, my own path, my own way through my heart. Now, do I take the teachings of Jesus and others into my heart? You better believe it. As a matter of fact, I've led a meditation here that as I go through and I'm thinking and being and allowing Spirit to be in me, sometimes I can feel myself moving along, and I can't tell if I'm in the body of Jesus or if I'm in someone walking along with him. But you can do it too, and I'd like for you to take a moment and do this. Close your eyes for a moment with me. If you would, take a deep breath and let it out. And we find ourselves in sandals and the garb that you would find in the desert, in a dusty, dusty, dusty road. And we look down, and we have robes on that are tied at the waist. And there's a rope, and it will gently rock back and forth as we walk. And as we walk, we can feel the dust upon our feet. And we can look at the one we're walking with, and we can see that that is the beloved. I'm walking alongside the beloved. And he is me, and I am him, and we are love. And I remember that he said that I could do whatever he did. And I remember that he said, "You're the light of the world." I remember that, and I take it with me as I go out into the world where there might be chaos and the road is difficult and long and hard. Oh, and I say thank you for this refreshing moment. So I say thank you for allowing me to spend this time with you on this road toward home. You see, that's where we're all moving. We're all going homeward. We're homeward bound. And as we go on this journey together, let us ask to have eyes to see. Where would you have me be, God? Ears to hear. What would you have me know, God? What is mine to do? I would choose that. And as we go on this journey together as seekers, I ask that we all go together, find our place in the world. There are no accidents. You are here for a reason. And don't ever, ever think otherwise. You have a special purpose, and God is letting you know that right now. So as the week goes on, I would just ask you to do a couple of things for me, if you would. Look at how your life has largely been a result of your early programming. Are you willing to see things differently? Will you begin today? This week, what am I feeling? I want you to look at the clutter around your home space. Now do this, take this seriously. If your space is cluttered, it typically means that your mind is too. This is serious. Starting to straighten up and get organized and clean up. Are you willing to clean it up? Will you begin with today with me? I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're going to go on this sacred journey with us. My co-minister there, Reverend Alice, she was with me as I was thinking of these things all week. I had her in my mind and my heart as I was thinking this. And all the rest of you, forgive me if I didn't mention your name. I was going by memory. Deb, Charles, all your names? Oh, okay. All of you. You're included. You're included in this. Please know. We're all God's children, and we just walk in each other home. Thank you for your time.